Welcome to the Bird-Flowerhead tutorial. This is a program called Adobe Photoshop, and if you've never used Adobe Photoshop before, I'm just going to talk you around it a little bit so you can understand where things are. Obviously the image is on the main window here, which is the eagle, which we have in front of me here, and the flower behind. Over here on the left we have the toolbars. The very first tool here is the Move tool, which allows me to actually click on things and move things around. We have a selection box here, which gives us various different selection tools and various other selection tools. These are all about selecting parts of images or all of images, and we'll come to those gradually over these tutorials. A general brush tool for painting, the eraser tool, which we're going to use quite a bit for rubbing things out, paint bucket for filling, and a gradient tool, which allows us to put a different colour gradients in, and if we hold down we can get the different tools underneath. There's the paint bucket. So if you see these little arrows by things, you can hold down and get different things underneath. So there's a pencil there rather than a brush, but I tend to keep it on the brush tool. We have a text tool there, and a pipette tool, or rather an eyedropper tool this is called, and that will allow us to pick colours off the picture. So here's our colours here, and if I double click on that it gives me various options, and I can change the colour, or I can, that's just web colours, I can take that off and I can get very fine colours and OK it, and you see the square is changed to the colour I'm on. And that eyedropper tool allows me to go in, and anything I click on, like the orange of that beak, I can pick that actual colour, so the bright orange, or a yellow, or a white, or a green, and so on. So that's a very powerful little tool. That's very useful. OK, I'm going to go back to the Move tool. Over here we have another set of palettes really, which are very important. This first one up the top here is our navigation. It's called and this allows us to zoom in and out. So I can zoom out using this one here, or zoom back in, or I can use the slider in between to do so. And when I'm zoomed right in, you see on the actual picture up here there's a little red box, and I can move that around and go to areas that I want to zoom in on. So this allows me to really get in close to something, or out. So that's the navigator. Alright, and the layers, this is the layers here. This is the most important thing. Everything we do in Photoshop, we use layers, we use the layer options. Now layers, what this means is, just like anything, like a layered cake, whatever's on top is on top of the image. So the eagle is the top layer, and it's on top of the flower. If I just put him over there a little bit, if I want to move them around, I can click on one of these layers and hold down and drag, and I dropped it now beneath that, and the flower is now the top layer, so he's beneath it. So he's there, but he's beneath the layer. Alright. If I want to move the flower layer, I must click on the flower layer to let the computer know what I want to do, and now I'm on the flower layer. If I want to get rid of a layer to start with, rather than delete it just to hide it, I can turn the eye off on a layer. Alright, so it is there, but it's just hiding it, and I can do that with any layer I've got. So that's your layers. If you can't see these pictures when you get your tutorials up, often it's because the settings are wrong, and you need to go to this little menu bar here, and if you go down to the bottom to palette options, sometimes it's set on small and entire document, and it looks like this. So to enlarge it, you go to that menu, down to the palette option, and you set the largest thumbnail and layer bounds. Okay, and you'll see the larger pictures. If I want to copy a layer, alright, sometimes it's good to copy a layer in case I make a mistake. There's different ways of doing that. I can right mouse click and duplicate layer, and OK. Or I can go to that menu again, and I can go to duplicate layer there, and OK, as you can see. Or I can actually just drag a layer down to this symbol here next to the bin. Alright, it's called create new layer, and let go, and it gives us another layer. If I do that with the flower, look. Yeah, it gives us two. So there's different ways to do. I tend to right mouse click and use the duplicate layer option. OK. Alright, so that's duplication of layers. If I want to delete layers, it's the same sort of thing. I can drag it to the bin, alright, or I can right mouse click and go delete layer. Alright, so that's how we get rid of them. If I've got a lot, I can hold down shift on my keyboard, click the first one, hold down shift, and then click the last one I want to do, and then drag them all down to the bin. There we go, so I'm back to normal. Right, let's get started. Adobe Photoshop is fantastic for altering images, changing photographs, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to attempt to just take pieces of the eagle, the beak and the eye, and put it onto the flower head and make a new sort of weird creature. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to click on, make sure I'm back up on my move tool here at the top, and I'm going to come over to my layers and make sure I'm on this eagle picture and bring that back up above that layer there so I can see it. And I'm going to enlarge it, and to enlarge it I need to transform it. It's called transforming it, and I press Control CTRL, the corner key at the bottom of the keyboard. I hold that down and click T, and that gives me these 8 nodes around the outside, and I can stretch this up now. If I come from the sides, I get a very altered image, and it doesn't look right. Same with the middles, So I tend to want to keep it the same. So I always come from the corner and hold Shift down on the keyboard. That's Shift, and that allows me to pull it up and keep everything in proportion. So I'm going to enlarge that, and this is just a preview, so sometimes it looks a bit fuzzy. And when I've finished, I have to go up to the tick to finish off up here. So I'll click that, and that's now giving me the full rendered version. And what I want to do is get the eye and the beak. So I'm going to go to my selections over here, my select tools, and I'm just going to take the square, or what's called the rectangle marquee tool, and I'm just going to go drag across the eye here, this area, and I'm going to go to Edit and Copy, and I'm just going to copy it, and back to Edit and Paste. And although nothing seems to have changed, you can see on the layers we have a new layer now, and it's on top, and that's the eye. And if I turn the eagle off, you can see there's just the eye. Okay, and what I'm going to do is, now I'm on my move tool still, I'll just move that out of the way up there. Alright, and I'm going to come back and do the same thing for the beak area. So I'm going to come over the beak. Okay, now if I went to Edit Copy now, it wouldn't copy anything. And the reason is, I'm on this layer, and there's nothing on that area except for the eye up there, so it's blank space. So I must tell the computer what I want to copy, so I have to click back on the eagle layer. Now if I go to Edit, Copy, and Edit, Paste, it's copied from the main eagle area, and I can turn that off now out of the way. I don't need it anymore. So I'm going to go back to my Move tool, and what I want to do first of all is I want to edit round this beak. So we've just got the beak area, and I'm going to zoom in a bit on my navigator and move the box around. Okay, now a quick way of doing this, because that's brown there and the other colours are white and orange, I can use the magic wand, which is this tool here. If I hold down magic wand, and this allows me to click on an area, and it selects pixels of the same colour. Now the tolerance up here, if I set that to 1 and click brown, it's only selecting the same pixel colours that I clicked on. Now if I bring that up to say 30 and click again, it's selected a lot more, but it's got a lot of browns that have gone into the beak, so that's too much. So I've got to sort of adjust my tolerance levels to get it close, so that's pretty close, so I'll probably make it 15. Okay, and yeah, that'll do me. That gets rid of most of it. In fact, it's coming in there, so if I hit delete on the keyboard now, which I'll do, alright, I've lost that in there, and I don't want to do that, so I'm going to undo. Now, you can undo about 20 times in Photoshop, and a quick way of doing it is holding Control and Alt down, and then go Z, 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 and that allows you to go back. So a quick way of doing this now without hitting delete, if I go to my eraser tool, and right mouse click and get a hard brush, make sure the hard is right up, hardness, and a big brush, I can just go in there and delete the areas and avoid that bit there that's highlighted. Alright, and select, deselect will get rid of these marching ants. So select, deselect. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to rub out the rest, so I'm going to get my eraser, and I want a soft brush here, so the hardness is taken right off, all the way down, and I want a brush size, let's have a brush size about there. So, and if I go in, I can get a nice soft edge on it, so it blends. So you can get a feathery sort of feel to it. You don't need a. I'll just blend that, and I'll take this lot out as well. Okay, and I'm just going to keep that fleshy area in there of the bird. Now I'm doing this very quickly. You could obviously spend more time. I'm going to go back and get a hard brush, and go back in and just trim that up there. So it's a little bit sharper. I'll make it up a little bit. That'll do me. I'm going to zoom out, go to my move tool, and move it over onto the Okay, so I've moved it over onto my flower head. Just adjust it a little bit more, I think. And I now want to move the eye across, so I must go back to the layers and click on the eye. I'm on the move tool, so I can move my eye across here. And I want to get rid of the feathers, so I'm going to use a soft brush on this again. So I'm going to go back to Eraser, right mouse click, and make sure the hardness is right down so it's a nice soft brush, and I'll keep that size of brush there, and I'll zoom in. So let me zoom right into the eye so I can work carefully on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get that shape out underneath like that, but I might keep that eye darker part of the eyebrow in. I'll see how that looks. I won't take it all out first of all. There's a hard line there, so I'm just going to clean that up a bit by clicking. Let's just zoom out and see how that looks. Yeah, I'm happy with that. That looks quite an annoyed eagle flower head. So that's the tutorial, and you'll see now I've got the layers, I've got the flower head, the hidden eagle, which is still there, and the beak and the eye. And if I'd made a mistake, I could have deleted these and used my eagle again. So it's always a good idea to duplicate things in case you're going to make mistakes. That's the end of the tutorial. You have a go.